And welcome back once again to the Ask Coach Gallagher show alongside Greg Gallagher. I'm Dave Erickson. So for some of you, it is the off season. I guess depends on where you live in the world. It could be your off season. Greg, you got some ideas on a screening test that can help athletes prepare for their on season. What is that called?
It's a function and mobility screening, and it's with a physical therapist. And I just want to point out that I think one of the number one people you need in your corner, besides a coach, is a physical therapist. They're gonna put you back together when things maybe go wrong, maybe some overuse injuries and stuff. And so I work with Gail Anderson at Mount Spokane Physical Therapy here in Spokane, and what they do is you go in and they put you through a screening process, and they figure out where, say, your weaknesses may be. And for an example, we'll use a push-up. So let's say he asked me to do a push-up. So if I have pain with that push-up, that's a red flag that there's a problem. So then it takes you down another avenue to fix that problem. Let's say I can do the push-up, but I can't do very many, or I'm kind of shaky. Well, you're scored. So the pain is going to give you a 0 score. And say you're a little sloppy, don't hold your form very well, then that's another score. And so then they build a plan to work with you to fix the weaknesses, because a weakness is going to turn into an injury down the road. So that's I feel that was one thing that did me a lot of good last year, is going through that screening and spending the time to do all the exercises that he had given me.
So besides a push-up test, and does that fall under function more than mobility?
Yeah, because that would be a function. The mobility would be, a flexibility. He did another test where you had to step over a specific line that he had measured out, and if you're not flexible enough, maybe your hamstrings are tight, you can't do it, because just the way it's designed, it's really, really looking for weaknesses and inflexibility. So yeah, it does both.
I think I'm familiar with this type of testing. I've seen it done before. Sometimes they'll use a broomstick and they put it over your shoulders to see how flexible your shoulders are, or a balancing trick where you kind of go down, or
right.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
The broomstick one is one that we have done in the past, and how you hold it above your head, behind your head above, and then you squat down. And if you can squat all the way down without your heels coming off the ground, then you have that perfect flexibility, and you're able to make the movement. But if you start leaning forward and you can't go all the way down, well, then there's tightness and there's issues. And so again, you're scored a certain way, and then at the end of the screening, you add up all the scores and figure out where you're at, and then you work on the problems that they found.
And so the physical therapist can then prescribe some type of workouts or drills or exercises to target and make you better in those areas.
Yes, exactly. They depending on how many issues you have, the more exercises you're going to end up with.
Do you recall if he has said, this is Gail Anderson, what parts of the body people find the most trouble with?
I didn't get that. I'm assuming it's going to be in the back. Back issues are so, they're probably one of the ones that they deal with the most, just in general. And in athletes, you put a lot of strain on your back sitting on that tri bike for several hours at a time, and neck issues. So yeah, I would think probably back issues would be probably the number one thing.
I can imagine also hip flexibility, hamstring tightness, and so on. Now, that is an initial screening test. There's got to be some follow-ups to see what kind of progress a person's made.
Right, and what he does is for 150, you can go in there and you get 3 screenings set up. So you'll do your first one. That will figure out where you're at, figure out some problems. He'll give you the exercises, and then he wants to see you every 4 to 6 weeks for the second one, and then again for the third one. And he's hoping that we're all doing our exercises, doing what we're supposed to do, and we're getting better. And then maybe on the second one, maybe he finds something that he wants to tweak, and he gives you some more exercises. And For a triathlete who's got a long season, probably 4 to 6 weeks is a good number to get screened. And I mean, if your season, let's say you're training for a whole entire year, you start in November and you race Kona in October. Well, that's going to be about 8 visits. So, and then after the 150, I believe he said it was $50 every time you go in. So you're not obligated to another 3. So,
What have you found to be some problem spots that you've discovered?
shoulder.
Shoulder.
Yeah, yep. I brought up the push-up thing because I've had some shoulder issues in the pool using paddles. It just, if I use them too much, I start straining my shoulders. And when I worked with him last time, I was having an impingement in the back of my shoulder, and we worked on it, and then it went away. So I just try to be cautious on some of the exercises, such as push-ups, such as plank. I got to be careful with plank too if my shoulder's aggravated. So that was the main issue. I think the main problem was the shoulder thing.
And this is a recommendation to do the end of your season or as you ramp up for your full season, so you can get some of these things addressed early on.
Right, and so with me, if you sign up for me. With me as a coach, that's going to be the one thing that I'm going to have you do. You're going to go see Gail. He's going to put you through it. Then we're all going to sit and talk and figure out where your problems are. Let's say that he can say, oh, this athlete has a specific problem with his shoulder or a knee. Well, then I know as a coach what I can and can't prescribe to him because of an issue that we're dealing with. And again, earlier you find it, the better off you're going to be later in the season. Once you start getting a lot of miles in, a lot of yards in the pool, that overuse is going to flare up an injury if there's definitely a weakness. And the asymmetry is if things aren't balanced, you got to figure out why they're not balanced. So I think a huge part of getting started before your training really gets going.
All right, this has been called function and mobility screening because, as you said, your words, a weakness can develop into an injury if not addressed. And I think it's so important for us with as many hours as we're putting in.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
All right. Hey, if you've got a question for Greg, use the hashtag AskCoachGallagher on Twitter, Facebook, or YouTube. Thanks a lot, Greg.
Thanks, Dave.